Shocking trials. Job's ultimate test of faith revealed in the Bible. Few knew what truly happened that night in the land of Uz, where shadows danced and whispers echoed like a haunting memory. Job, a man of wealth and honor, found himself at a devastating crossroads. His life was shattered, livestock lost, servants slain, and worse, his beloved children swept away in a merciless storm. The air was thick with grief, each breath punctuated by a heart-wrenching sigh. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across his barren fields, Job's heart sank deeper. What betrayal had he faced? Why had fortune turned its back on him? In that moment of despair, he sat alone, racked with disbelief. It was said angels had sung of his righteousness, yet now it seemed as if the heavens themselves conspired against him. Rumors flew through the streets like wildfires. Surely he must have sinned. They whispered, their eyes filled with judgment. They pointed fingers, casting stones wrapped in silence. Job, however, remained steadfast, clinging to the last shreds of faith that clung to him like tattered cloth. Why would God allow such calamity? What dark purpose lay hidden in the folds of this test? Eyewitnesses swore they saw his body covered in festering sores, scratching at his skin in agony as he lamented. The air around him was charged with mystery. There were talks of mysterious visitors offering advice laden with suspicion. Friends turned into foes, their counsel sharp as daggers. Curse God and die, they urged as they watched his spirit dwindle. And still, Job's voice rang out, strong yet trembling. Though he slay me, yet will I trust in him. The air held its breath as hope flickered amid the darkness. Who truly was this man, full of pain yet not broken? What lay ahead in this unseen battle between faith and despair? Hey! Before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon, and while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. In the somber twilight of his affliction, Job remained steadfast, his face a hardened mask of sorrow and determination. The turbulent winds whispered secrets, yet none offered solace. Each day bled into the next, marked only by the cycle of pain that etched deeper lines into his furrowed brow. His physical torment mirrored the tumult within, a heart caught in a struggle with the divine as he sat beneath the vast azure sky, staring across the desolate expanse that was once his thriving land. He felt a presence nearby. It was one of his friends, Eliphaz, who approached with a hesitant gait. His eyes, however, bore the weight of concern and something more, a flicker of doubt emerging from the depths of his spirit. Job, Eliphaz began, his voice trembling like the leaves in the wind. Have you considered the mysteries of God's ways? Perhaps, in his wisdom, he is showing you a path you have yet to understand. Job gazed into the distance, his heart torn. What wisdom is this, Eliphaz, if it comes from pain? Do the righteous not receive mercy? Do the innocent not find refuge? Eliphaz, making an effort to hold semblance of formality, seemed caught in a tempest of his own beliefs. But how can we know the mind of the Almighty? His purposes may be concealed, yet they are perfect. There is much that we cannot see. And yet, here I sit, lost in despair. Job replied, his voice a quiet storm. What of the prayers that fell upon deaf ears? What of the cries that were swallowed by darkness? Is this truly a test of my faith, or am I simply a pawn in a game I do not comprehend? The two men sat in silence, the setting sun painting the clouds with hues of crimson and gold, stirring ancient whispers of truth long buried. Eliphaz's brow knitted, his mind racing through a landscape of uncertainties, seeking answers that felt eternally out of reach. Is it not the case that suffering brings us closer to him? That through fire, we are refined? Then does my suffering, to the Lord, amount to mere forge work? Job's voice trembled, contrasting with the fiery resolve in his heart. Am I to bear the weight of the world's misfortunes for the sake of wisdom? Each day demands a toll I cannot fathom. The sun sank lower, the last rays kissing the earth with a muted farewell. Job felt the shadows of doubt encroach upon his spirit. He pondered the silence of God and his absence amidst his anguish. Where is he who knows my plight? Does he walk among the broken, or has his attention turned elsewhere? Eliphaz sighed, heavy with the gravity of unspoken struggles. We may never know his reasoning, Job. It is the nature of faith to forsake understanding, to trust even in the unknown. As night fell, it brought an eerie stillness, a void filled with questions yet to be unfolded. Job felt the solitude deepen, and with it, the echoing call of truth. Who was God in the midst of this chaos? What revelation awaited him in the darkness? And how could he reconcile his unshakable faith with the suffocating weight of despair? Could it be that, in this desperate hour, he would unearth a deeper understanding, or would the silence remain, pregnant with unanswered sorrows? Amidst the cloak of night, as stars began to scatter like scattered thoughts across the heavens, Job found solace in the quietude that enveloped him. The cold air of midnight carried with it the fragrance of earth and despair, weaving through his soul like a balm, stirring questions that hung heavy like the night sky above. As he lay upon the barren ground, he turned to the ancient movements of the cosmos, searching for meaning in the constellations. They glimmered faintly, yet they spoke of distance and eternity, as if mocking the trials that weighed upon him. Could he dare consider the notion that his anguish was but a single speck in the divine tapestry woven in the heavens? From the depths of his heart, Job cried out, "O Lord, why do you hide your face from me? Is my suffering a game to you? I have poured out my lament as an offering, yet it seems the silence is my only companion." In that darkness, he felt a stirring within, an echo of the long-ago stories whispered through the ages. Tales of men who walked with God in times of trouble, who questioned and wrestled yet remained unbroken. Was he not in their lineage, a bearer of faith, albeit shaken? Just then, a gust of wind swept through the veil, wrapping around Job like an otherworldly embrace. From the shadows, another figure emerged, shrouded in a cloak of mysterious voice yet familiar, yet foreign, spoke into the stillness. "Job, why do you seek answers from the void? Do you not see that your cries reach the heavens? That even in your despair, the Creator is woven into your very being?" Job sat up, startled and intrigued. "Who are you that speaks like a whisper on the wind? Can you bring me the wisdom hidden from my sight?" With a countenance both radiant and somber, the figure approached, revealing an ethereal glow. "I am a messenger of the divine, sent not to provide simple answers, but to guide you through understanding. For in suffering, there lies a profound no-winga pathway to deeper communion with the holy." Communion? Job breathed, the word reverberating in his mind, fusing with the countless moments of anguish he had endured. What use is there in communion when one is lost in sorrow? I seek to hold on to my faith, yet it feels as if it slips through my fingers like sand. Faith, like a seed planted in barren soil, requires the weight of the earth to find its roots. It is in the shadows of doubt that the light of understanding breaks forth, illuminating paths unseen. Do you not feel the stirrings within, the growth that comes from every tear you shed? Yet even as the words resonated in his soul, Job felt an inner tumult. How could his suffering be anything but a burden? But what if my anguish is but futile? What if my cries for justice go unheard, swallowed by a cosmos too vast? As the figure raised a hand, the night sky shimmered, refracting into patterns that danced with celestial beauty. The heavens are vast, yet what appears inconsequential in the expanse is woven together in a purpose divine. Can you not perceive that through your trials, others might see the reflection of resilience? That through your journey, many might witness the shaping of faith amidst despair? Job contemplated these words as they unfurled in the depths of his heart. But tell me, then, O messenger, how can I find peace when my body writhes and my spirit yearns for answers? Peace is not the absence of conflict, but the assurance of presence. In the quietude of turmoil, Seek not simply understanding but connection with the divine. The story of suffering is not concluded in darkness. It continues to unveil the mystery of hope and faith. With these words etched upon his soul, Job felt a flicker of something profound awaken within him. Yet the weight of uncertainty lingered still like shadows at dusk. How could he embrace such a connection in the face of relentless suffering? In this moment of revelation, a question echoed louder than before. Could his trials become a bridge to understanding, or would they remain a chasm too great to bridge? As Job sat amidst the desolation, the messenger's words hung in the air, enigmatic and heavy with promise. The breeze carried whispers through the barren landscape, rustling the remnants of his shattered world. He felt drawn to the specter of hope, yet shadows of doubt loomed large. "Tell me more," Job urged, his voice quivering like a fragile flame. "What do you mean by connection? I feel abandoned, cast aside, like a vessel broken upon the shores of despair. How can I reach out to the divine when hope feels like a distant star?" The figure regarded Job with eyes that seemed to hold the depths of ages. "In seeking connection, you must first confront the silence you dread. It is in the heart of stillness that the echoes of truth may reveal themselves. The divine walks with you not as a distant observer, but as a tender witness to your pains and questions. Each lament is a prayer reaching upward, a plea for communion rather than isolation." Job grasped the ground beneath him, feeling its coldness seep into his bones. Was he truly alone? The memory of well-worn friends, who had gathered to console him, flooded his mind. Yet, as their words cascaded over him like a river of well-meaning platitudes, he had felt no solace. Rather, their attempts only deepened his abyss. "But my cries have gone unanswered," he murmured, a tremor of frustration breaking through. "What comfort can come from speaking to the empty night? Consider the very night which seems devoid of light," the figure replied, unfurling a hand towards the heavens. "For stars shine not in the brightness of day but emerge in the darkness, illuminating the vastness of the universe. Your voice, too, may illuminate the unseen space around you. The divine listens with a heart of compassion, not as a judge waiting to sentence." Job's brow furrowed beneath the weight of the revelation. Could his anguish serve a purpose beyond mere suffering? As the memory of his past glimmers began to fade into the concerns of the present, he felt a flicker of resentment. But what of those who suffer still, who endure trials far beyond my own? What justice is there in a world riddled with pain? Can understanding be cultivated in a garden so filled with thorns? "Ah, Job," the figure said gently, "the nature of suffering is complex. Like a tapestry woven with both light and dark threads, it forms a whole that is richer than the parts. With every question, you journey deeper into the heart of the divine mystery. Look not only to your own plight but to the reflections of others, the widow, the orphan, the oppressed. In their cries is found the universal lament of humanity, which binds you to them and to the one who hears." A swell of understanding began to rise within Job. Perhaps his suffering was not merely a chastisement nor a mark of isolation but an invitation, a beckoning to draw closer to those who linger in darkness. Still, a nagging worry tugged at the fringes of his heart, shrouding the newfound light in ambiguity. So, if I share in their injustice, must I also accept the burden of my own scars? He posed, feeling both emboldened and apprehensive. Is this what faith demands of me, to bear witness to sorrow and yet find purpose within? In every burden lies the potential for transformation, the figure assured, the certainty of its voice echoing like a steady drumbeat. Consider how your journey through grief and loss may serve as a guidepost for others lost in their own shadows. The depth of your tears may yet cultivate a garden of hope where despair once lay fallow. Job pondered these words, wrestling inwardly amidst the tumult of his thoughts. Could it be that, through the lens of suffering, he could find purpose beyond himself? The promise of understanding shimmered before him like a distant beacon, yet the path was shrouded in uncertainty. Even as resolution began to flicker in the coals of his heart, a deeper question surged forth, stronger than before. Could the heavy weight of his trials, intertwined with the collective human experience, become a conduit for love and understanding, or would they forever weigh him down in isolation. As Job mulled over the figure's words, a sudden rustle of the wind stirred the barren landscape, wrapping him in an embrace that felt both alien and familiar. It was as if nature itself recognized his turmoil, whispering secrets from the depths of an unseen realm. The sun began its slow descent, casting long shadows that danced ominously around him, reminding Job of the fleeting nature of time and life itself. Can there be truly a path through this wasteland? Job questioned aloud, his voice wavering against the encroaching dusk. With every heartbeat, I feel the weight of this trial pressing down upon me, a burden to bear but no release to grasp. The figure observed silently, its presence oddly grounding amidst the chaos of Job's thoughts. In the dance of despair, you may yet find cadence. What if I told you that even in your loneliest moments, there are echoes of hope yet lies obscured, waiting for you to unearth it? Listen for the whispers amidst the thunder of your anguish. Job's brow knitted in contemplation. Yet how can I listen? My heart is heavy, my spirit battered. The pain seems louder than any promise. He responded, each word as jagged as the shards of his broken life. I seek understanding, but all I encounter are unanswered questions. But therein lies the key. The figure's gaze deepened, beckoning Job to shift his perspective. Understanding will not always bloom in the sunshine of clarity, but often germinates through the thorns of doubt. Do you recall the stories shared among your kin? Each one holds the weight of human experience, joy intertwined with sorrow, triumph alongside trials. What you confront is not merely your own anguish but the shared narrative of mankind. Job sat back, feeling the earth beneath him. He recalled the elders, their voices weaving tales rich with laughter and pain, wisdom cultivated through years of navigating the storms of life. Is my suffering part of a much larger story? He mused, his mind a whirlpool of revelation and confusion. Can it transcend to something beyond myself? Indeed, Job, the figure intoned, warmth permeating its ethereal form. Your journey connects you to all who have come before you, and those yet to arrive. Each cry of despair echoes against the heart of the universe, creating ripples that reach the divine. By embracing your scars, you invite others into the compassion of shared existence. Every thread of suffering can be woven into a tapestry of understanding if only you dare to confront the pain. Job felt the weight of that insight thrum through his veins. Would he embrace this narrative, even as it continued to twist and turn beyond his grasp? The noise of his grief began to quiet, revealing a flicker of clarity at its heart. Yet, that flicker was overshadowed by uncertainty. But do we not also risk being lost in such a tapestry? What if the burden grows too heavy? What if I drown in the collective sorrow? Ah, Job, that is the crux of the journey, the figure replied softly, wisdom gleaming like starlight in its eyes. To fear drowning is to also fear swimming. It is within the vulnerability of connection that strength is forged. The water may feel deep, but you are not alone in navigating its depths. Job shifted again, feeling adrift yet strangely tethered as new thoughts unfurled. If his challenges were part of a greater story, could he also find grace in the struggle? Would the interweaving of sorrows and joys guide him toward the divine and toward others, or would it simply intensify his isolation? As the shadows deepened and the first stars pierced the twilight, another question rose within him, powerful and unbidden. Could the weight of shared suffering build a bridge to understanding, or would it be the current that swept him away into despair? As the night settled around Job, the cool air brought a momentary relief from the fervent heat of his thoughts. The darkness enveloped him, yet it was in this quiet obscurity that he began to glimpse the flickers of tentative light. The figure remained at his side, a silent guardian absorbing the tension that crackled like energy in the night. Can it be so? Job pondered aloud. That within despair lies the essence of connection? Like threads woven through a loom, is it possible that our struggles invite another's strength? The figure nodded, its voice like the gentle wash of waves against the shore. Indeed, Job, in the depths of sorrow, there exists the potential for solidarity. When one voice breaks amidst the tumult, others often rise to meet it. Pain has a language of its own, one that can transcend the silence of isolation. Job looked up at the stars shining down with an ancient gleam. Yet are they not distant? These souls whose struggles I learn from? Am I not just a solitary figure within this vast expanse, lost to the currents of fate? Distance is but a mirage, Job. The stars speak timeless truths, yet they are not removed from your world. Each twinkle symbolizes stories of trials and perseverance, echoing struggles that have shaped humanity across generations. They remind you that while you see them as distant, they are connected to you by the threads of existence. Taking a deep breath, Job pondered the significance of his plight. He recalled the laughter of his children, the loving conversations with his wife, and the support of his friends. Though his heart was heavy with grief, those memories were reminders of joy that mingled with suffering. So you say the joy and sorrow are woven together in this universal fabric. But how do I embrace both the joyous memories and the painful present? He asked, his voice a murmur beneath the stillness. In acceptance lies the path. The figure encouraged, its presence radiating an understanding that transcended mere words. You do not need to sever ties with happiness to confront grief. Instead, see them both as elements of a single tale where growth and rebirth emerge from loss. Consider the seasons. Winter lays the ground for spring. In your somber winter days, perhaps a seed of hope is quietly preparing to blossom. As Job contemplated this, the weight of his thoughts began to morph. He understood that perhaps the essence of his suffering was not the conclusion of his story but rather a transformative chapter leading toward resurgence. But what of the doubts that assail me? The fears that whisper I shall never rise again? Doubt is a faithful companion, Job. It urges you to confront your deepest fears and question your beliefs. It is a part of the journey, not the enemy. Allow it to guide you toward a deeper faith, one that does not dismiss the shadows but recognizes their place in the light. Engage it, wrestle with it, and in this struggle you might uncover new depths of truth. Encouraged yet rested by uncertainty, Job felt a stirring within, that maybe, just beyond the reach of his current anguish, lay a horizon yet unseen. As he sat in the growing stillness, he began to wonder whether each moment of suffering might foster the growth of understanding, not only in him but in others he might someday encounter. But deeper questions began to unfurl within him, for every revelation seemed to cast new shadows. Was it possible that in enduring this pain, he might ignite a flicker of understanding in another's heart? Yet what if, in endeavoring to connect, he merely magnified his own suffering, losing himself in the profound tapestry woven by every tear shed? Job tightened his grip on the earth beneath him, struggling between the strands of hope and fear, poised at the precipice of a journey that felt both daunting and necessary. As dawn broke, light began to seep slowly through the dense canopy of the surrounding trees, illuminating the world that lay beneath. Job felt the warmth on his face, a tentative caress that stirred something ancient within him. A softness nestled within the hard shell of his heart. Fresh resolve filled the air, mixing with the scent of dew-kissed earth. Still, his questions remained, dancing like shadows around the edges of his consciousness. The figure beside him stirred, responsive to the shifting light. Job, with each dawn comes a clarity that the night can obscure. Consider this. What do you seek as light starts to illuminate your path? Is it relief from your suffering, or is it a deeper understanding of it? Job gazed at the horizon painted in hues of gold and rose. Though relief calls to me, I find myself asking for understanding. What am I to learn from this pain? And more importantly, how might it shape the tapestry of my life and the lives of those I love? To seek understanding is a noble quest, and in that pursuit, you may find purpose. Pain, while deeply personal, also has a role that extends beyond oneself. Reflect on the stories that have carried others through trial, stories of faith forged in the fires of adversity. Your own experiences may become a lifeline for those you have yet to meet. The figure responded, a reminder of the interconnectedness that underpins human existence. For a moment, Job allowed himself to envision others, those who would sit by a fire, hearts heavy with loss, and hear the true resonance of struggle. How could his experiences serve as a lantern through their own darkness? Yet unease crept in, feeding the doubt that plagued him. But what if my testimony is one of failure? Am I then to cast light on a shattered faith? The figure regarded Job with compassion. What you perceive as failure may instead be the raw material from which hope is birthed. The world is not bereft of struggle. It thrives amid it. Even in the greatest depths of despair, there can emerge a the flicker that breaks through the night. You must embrace the vulnerability of your journey, allowing it to become a beacon that illuminates the path for another. Job pondered the profound weight of this perspective. Was his suffering merely tragic, or could it serve as a vital thread in the greater design of life? The thought was both daunting and thrilling. Yet I am caught in a tempest of emotion, unsure how to articulate this truth. How can I be both a vessel of understanding while grappling with my turmoil? Engaging your struggle can be where the clarity takes root. Your honesty in the face of adversity resonates in a way that pretense cannot. Speak the truth of your heart, even when it quakes with uncertainty. It is within these shared struggles that healing can begin, not only for you but for others who find solace in your words. The figure encouraged, embodying patience. Something shifted within Job. Perhaps in his honesty, he could cultivate a humility that invites connection. The notion that vulnerability could forge bridges instead of chasms sparked a glimmer of possibility in his heart. Yet, as he considered this path, fresh doubts began to swirl. Could he truly bear his soul if it continued to tremble under the weight of despair? What if his story failed to resonate, echoing only silence? How could he hope to share pain when it felt as though it might wholly consume him? Job held tightly to the ground beneath him, grounding himself amid the rising tide of questions. Each new reflection stirred within him both trepidation and a yearning to connect, to understand not just for himself but for the larger fabric of humanity. Despite the uncertainty of this journey, he felt the call to courage, to step forth even as the thorns of doubt clung to his spirit. And so, beneath the burgeoning light of day, Job began to wonder anew. Was it possible that in confronting his deepest fears, he might discover a voice not only for his own suffering but a bridge for those standing at the edge of their own shadows? Or would this endeavor lead him further into solitude, lost to the endless depths of his own heart? As the sun climbed higher, casting rays of brilliance over the landscape, Job found himself standing at the edge of a precipice, both literally and metaphorically. The valley below stretched wide with verdant fields and flowing streams, symbols of life and abundance that felt distant to him. Encased in his grief, Job hesitated, wondering what truths lay ahead as he faced the rugged terrain of his own existence. "You stand at a crossroads, Job," spoke the figure beside him, the light now taking on a golden hue, wrapping around them as if nature itself was joining this sacred conversation. "Will you turn back and seek solace in oblivion, or will you venture forth, trusting the very pain you wish to escape?" The weight of those words settled upon Job, quieting the tumult within him. He turned to the figure, a companion woven into the fabric of his thoughts. Is there merit in suffering, or is it simply a curse, an affliction to be endured until the end? I long for peace yet am consumed by frustration at the very question of its nature. Pain is a teacher, not an adversary, the figure replied softly. Each trial contains the seeds of revelation. It is not in suffering itself that you find worth but in how you respond to it. Like the artist who must wrestle with the canvas, so too must you engage with your trials to create something beautiful from them. As Job absorbed this truth, he began to perceive his affliction in a new light. The shadows of doubt flickered, revealing faint outlines of hope. But what if the art I create is marred by imperfections? My heart is frayed, and my faith flickers like a candle in the wind. Can it still serve as something of value? The figure smiled gently. The most poignant works of art are often those born from struggle. It is the reflection of humanity, raw and unpolished, that resonates with others. Do not shy away from the imperfections. Instead, allow them to speak of a journey that is real and relatable. In your honesty, you may unearth a vulnerability that binds hearts together. Job contemplated this wisdom, envisioning the tapestry of his life, woven with threads of pain and joy, loss and hope. Was it true that his story could connect him to others, allowing shared burdens to weave a collective strength? Yet still a shadow loomed within him. If vulnerability invites connection, does my sorrow not also create barriers? They see my wounds but may not understand how to bridge them. There lies the mystery, Job. It is through the shared acknowledgement of our wounds that we can catalyze healing, the figure replied. Others may not possess the skills to navigate the depths of your grief, but knowing that they are not alone in their pain can provide solace. Even the act of bearing your story can be a lantern for another soul lost in darkness. The key is not to hold back, for fear of rejection, but to express boldly. As the figure's words echoed in his mind, Job's heart swelled with a bittersweet determination. Could he indeed pour forth his heart and offer it as a testament to resilience? Beneath the weight of his anguish, there flickered a tiny flame of resolve. Yet, with this newfound courage came a fear that whispered of potential breach. But what if my story falls on deaf ears? What if vulnerability leads to further isolation? The beauty of the dawn began to unfold in full bloom around him, as Job wrestled with this dualisha longing to connect and the nagging fear of abandonment. His thoughts drifted to those who had testified before him, people like Abraham and Joseph, who had endured the crucible of suffering and emerged transformed. Did they not too feel the weight of rejection, the burden of vulnerability? These reflections lit the way for Job's emerging understanding, that the path was fraught with uncertainty, yet also rich with possibility. He stood resolute at the brink, gazing into the distance where the horizon kissed the sky. Job pondered yet again. Could he embrace this journey of vulnerability while grappling with the very real threat of solitude? Or would revealing his truths instead open a floodgate for connection, stitching together a quilt of shared experiences where none had thought to reach across the divide? As the golden hues of dawn washed over the precipice where Job stood, he felt an unseen current pulling him toward the valley below. It beckoned with whispers of clarity and urgency, prompting him to take a step into the unknown. This was a moment that seemed both epical and eternal, history coalescing upon itself in singular significance as he prepared to traverse the landscape of his own tumult. With resolve hardening in his chest, Job stepped forward, his feet meeting the earth with a soft thud, the clash of hope against despair echoing in the recesses of his heart. As he descended, the very air crackled with unspoken tension, each inhalation a reminder of the battle waged with Ina's struggle to understand not just the presence of suffering but its profound significance. As he walked, shadows danced in rebellion against the burgeoning sunlight. Memories played out like flickering shadows at the fringes of his mind, each one a piece of the suffering he had endured. The faces of those he had lost haunted him. He could almost hear their laughter, feel the warmth of their presence fading like a fleeting dream. In that moment, Job grasped a truth that wove itself into the fabric of his thought. Grief is not a solitary experience but rather a communal burden, a shared journey that calls forth understanding from those who dare to walk alongside. Ahead of him, he spotted a gathering of people, their expressions etched with concern and searching. They stood by the riverside, where the waters flowed briskly, a symbol of life's persistence amidst turmoil. Their murmurs formed a murky tapestry of inquiry, each thread an attempt to grasp the depth of Job's suffering. As he approached, their attention turned, faces shifting from curiosity to an unspoken recognition of the weight he bore in their eyes. He could perceive not just pity, but an invitation to a shared journey, to spill forth the burdens he carried. Yet, the specter of vulnerability loomed before him, casting doubts like shadows across the waters. What if his truth revealed too much? What if the sharing of his anguish opened the floodgates of pain, overwhelming both himself and those who dared to listen? As these thoughts wrestled within him, he recalled the story of a solitary stone bathed in the river's currents. This stone, over years of flowing water, had smoothed its edges, becoming beautiful through the relentless caress of the very force that sought to erode it. Could he, too, find beauty in the turbulence of his suffering? This metaphor stirred something deep within him. With a trembling heart, Job began to speak, his voice steadier than he anticipated, resonating with the very essence of his struggles. I have known loss that cuts deeper than any sword, sorrow that suffocates as heavily as a storm-laden sky. In my journey, I have encountered despair, a shadow that lingers, whispering false comforts in the dead of night. As the words flowed from him, he witnessed flickers of understanding blossoming in the eyes of his listeners. They were no longer just detached observers but fellow travelers, each with their own burdens, hidden in the depths of their hearts. Perhaps it was this shared acknowledgement, this communion through suffering, that would knit together the tattered edges of his life into something more resilient. Yet, a question slipped into the spaces between his words, one that evoked a simultaneous call to connection and a fear of isolation. If my truth reveals too much of my fractured soul, will you still stand with me, or will the weight of my pain drive you away? The silence that met his inquiry felt heavy with unspoken answers, a pregnant pause filled with possibility. Job felt the gentle rustle of the wind as it wove through the trees behind him, stirring the leaves, a tangible reminder of the elusive nature of understanding. Was it not true that each of them, in standing together, could uplift one another? Yet the nature of connection tethered to vulnerability risked highlighting the chasms of misunderstanding that existed in every heart. And so, with the evening sun settling into the horizon, painting the world in shades of orange and lavender, Job awaited an answer. Would his story, personal and raw, resonate enough to bridge the gap between their souls? Had he summoned the courage to not only reveal but to also foster connection, even amid uncertainty? The river flowed on, relentless and full of mystery, leaving Job to ponder. Could the very act of revealing his brokenness become the fountain from which hope could spring anew? In the stillness of the valley, Job stood, his heart a tapestry of sorrow and resolve, the golden rays of the dusk casting an ethereal light around him. He felt the weight of every gaze upon him, a chorus of silent witnesses drawn together by their shared humanity. With each breath, he summoned not only his pain but the whisperings of hope that intertwined within it. I stand before you as a man marked by loss, bearing the scars of battles fought in the unseen confines of despair. He began, his voice unwavering, resonating like a beacon in the twilight. In this moment, I do not seek sympathy. I yearn for connection. I am not alone in this suffering, for we are bound together by the threads of our stories, each woven into the greater tapestry of existence. As Job spoke, he felt the stirring of something profound within him, an awakening that transcended his own trials. The faces of those gathered reflected their own journeys. Each pair of eyes held stories of heartache, dreams shattered, and futures uncertain. In his vulnerability, he sensed a growing strength amongst them, a silent acknowledgement of shared burdens that had the capacity to heal. He continued, the words flowing like the river beside them, your struggles and mine echo through the chambers of time, a legacy of resilience amid suffering. We all forge our way through dark nights, and yet, it is in that darkness we often discover the flickers of grace. I have often felt abandoned, teetering on the precipice of despair, but I have come to learn that my pain does not define me nor does it sever my ties with the divine. The gathered crowd leaned in, their breath mingling with the breeze, the air thick with anticipation and understanding. Job felt the unseen threads of connection being woven anew, binding their stories in a shared understanding. My trials have not been lost on the Almighty. Though I am engulfed by shadows, I am cradled by a love that transcends the very fabric of my existence. And through my suffering, I have begun to glimpse a deeper the truth that I wish to share. With a newfound intensity, Job continued, what if, in our collective heartache, we find purpose? My anguish is not simply my own. It is a reminder of the fragility of life, the beauty of connection, and the strength found in solidarity. Each tear I shed can water a seed of hope for another, a testament that we do not walk this path in isolation, but as companions in a shared struggle. As he spoke, Job's voice rose with the attributes of the dawn, resonating with authority born from experience. Let us not be defined by our scars, but rather by how we rise together. In sharing our stories, we cultivate compassion and transform suffering into a wellspring of understanding. Together, we can illuminate the paths for those lost in darkness, guiding them toward the light of renewal and rebirth. The murmurs of amens began rippling through the gathered souls, a blend of encouragement and affirmation that echoed against the twilight sky. emergence from suffering, expressed through unity and love, ignited within them a sense of possibility, a shift from despair to hope, from isolated anguish to collective strength. Job could see the flickers of realization igniting in others, the threads of their narratives intertwining within the sacred space they established together. Each heart beat with renewed purpose, a rhythm echoing the understanding that their struggles would not remain confined to silence but become pathways for healing. Empowered by this collective energy, Job raised his arms, his heart ready to encapsulate the strength of their shared humanity. Do not let your pain remain unspoken. Let it be the chorus that transcends grief, forging connections that illuminate the darkest corners of existence. Together, we stand as witnesses to our wounds and heralds of hope. In vulnerability, let us show the world that we are not broken, but beautifully resonant with the truth of shared suffering. The crowd responded not with solitary acceptance, but with a resounding wave of energy, their spirits lifted, a sea of interconnected souls ready to embrace the light shining forth from the darkness. The river beside them, though once a tumultuous torrent, now gleamed like a silver thread, reflecting the unity that blossomed in this moment as twilight deepened into night. Job felt an overwhelming sense of peace flood his heart. The trials he had endured were not signs of abandonment but badges of honor, testaments to the truth that in every affliction lies the opportunity for empathy, transformation, and the discovery of purpose. The message of his life began to crystallize within him, transcending his personal tribulations. All suffering has a voice, and through that voice, the divine is heard. That I in the midst of this revelation, a deep understanding settled into his spirit, echoing a profound truth that resonated far beyond the confines of the valley. Ultimately, my journey is a mirror reflecting the universality of our struggles. If I could find peace within my suffering, then we'll of us can rise together to forge a path of light through the many shadows cast by life's trials. And as the stars began to twinkle in the deepening darkness, Job knew that he was not just a man who had faced trials, but a vessel of hope, an unwritten testament to resilience echoing through time. What began as despair had transformed into a powerful movement of understanding, healing, and love. His words became the spark igniting faith anew, not just for himself but for all who dared to listen and, through that listening, reclaim their own stories. That I in the silence that followed, the world around them embraced a sacred stillness, a witness to the profound transformation joyfully blooming in the depths of suffering. Together, they stood poised at the precipice of new beginnings, as their shared faith cast a light within the night, illuminating a future forged from the fires of their trials. In the realm of the divine, they understood. Suffering, when met with resilience and unity, could birth the most profound transformations, resulting in an eternal connection woven through the very fabric of existence. And thus, darkness did not reign, for hope had reclaimed its rightful place, echoing eternally in the beats of their hearts.